Welcome to Buckets, coming to you from the Tommy John Home Studios. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm joined by Jim Turvey. I'm joined by Joe Delera. It's the Future Jays. We're going to break down tonight a playoff bet that you are not going to believe, that I couldn't believe when I first heard it, and then I looked into it and was like, son of a bitch. We're also going to get into, all right, the trade deadline's over, All-Stars this week. What's that team that goes on the run after All-Star and winds up in a conference final? Who is it? Who's that team? It's a known unknown. We're going to try and figure it out here on Buckets. All right, we're going to get started here with Joe Delera. He's on Twitter and in the Action Network app at Joe Delera. You can find Jim Turvey of Roto Grinders at Turvey Bets in the Action Network app and on Twitter. Catch his work at Roto Grinders. Joe Delera is also the host of the Catch That podcast. You can catch all sorts of great content on there. You've seen him doing all sorts of great stuff across the Action Network. All sorts of great content, including fueling all of Brandon Anderson's wins on the Super Bowl. We will start because Jim Turvey came to me with a future bet about almost a week ago, and I applaud him for not firing on this and nuking it before we could give it out. And he came to me with this bet, and I was like, oh boy, okay, sure, Jim. And then I started looking at the numbers and was like, damn. I kind of like this. And now it looks a lot more plausible. I wish that we could have done this episode days ago, Jim. Your favorite bet, your future bet that you want to talk about this week is?
I hate to say this as a resident of Rockets Island. You know, this was one of my favorite teams preseason, but it is Rockets to miss the playoffs. It was, when I came to you, it was at plus 3,000. It is now plus 1,600. We have gotten even more data, though, to show that this is a very, very viable bet. And at plus 1,600 is not going to last out there very long. And shop this around. When I'm looking in the evening, there's only one book that I could find that had it up. So we might be even able to find something near that plus 3,000, which would be amazing because
I see it 2,000 right now on DraftKings.
Look at this. Joe already found a better number than me.
I was just looking at it.
So.
Yeah.
I'm a dog.
So let's kind of give the implication here. Let's give the overall standing. So the Rockets, after losing 6 of their last 10, have fallen to 4th in the Western Conference. They're 33-20. So the important thing here as we enter into tiebreaker season, etc., is the thing you will hear me say a million times is, what are they in the loss column? Why? You can make up wins. You can't make up losses. Once they're on your ledger, that's it. You can't do anything with them. You can't improve your standing in the loss column. All you can do is hope that you catch up in the loss column to the other teams. You need the other teams to lose. So if the Rockets win out, but the Nuggets win out, guess what? The Nuggets finish ahead of them. They are at 20 in the loss column. The Lakers are at 19 in the 5. The Minnesota Timberwolves are 3 back in the 6th spot. But 6 and 7 are both at 23. So that would mean that if the Rockets were to slip past the Wolves and the Clippers, they would fall all the way to the 7th spot. You've got the Dallas Mavericks, who just lost 80 tonight for several weeks, at 25. So they're 5 back. You got the Kings, who are 6 back. All right, Jim, walk me through the handicap.
Yeah, so you talked about them dropping 6 of their last 10. If you don't even want to use the arbitrary 10 cutoff, you can say that they've dropped 6 of their last 7. So they lost 6 in a row before tonight. They beat the Toronto Raptors. I was really rooting for that. I was like, man, if they lose to the Raptors, this number's really going to start to go in the tank. So I was very happy to see them actually pull that off. And, usually if a 6, dropping 6 out of 7, I'm not one to, go by the whims of the season. Teams will have that. We'll talk about another team later that's kind of on the flip side of that. And if we want to trust that whatsoever at all, it's a long season, it happens. But I think there's a little bit more smoke to the fire here. So one big thing is that this has coincided pretty much perfectly with Fred VanVleet being out of the lineup. Now, Fred VanVleet is a player who, has been, in that sub all-star type range, but really is what I think is really important to this Houston offense. Their offense has dropped to 28th in the league in the short span without him. But if you watch the games as well, the offense just looks like it is sputtering without him. Şengün can be a hub to a certain degree, but he is not at the Jokic level of being able to float an offense as that kind of big hub. You need VanVleet with this offense. And what I'm worried about, so he's already officially out through the All-Star break, and they're talking about his injury is week to week. Now, maybe, this timing of the All-Star break comes perfectly. They kind of are able to tread water until the games until the break, and then they get them back and they hit the ground running after that. Here's the other part of this: the Western Conference, as we know, is just absolutely stacked. Matt walked through how close the teams are behind them. It is very easy to picture them getting to the 7 seed. And we've talked, I believe even on this podcast, but certainly, just in Slacks about this Rockets team and how, they were a favorite team of ours before the season to overperform. I have their division title. I'll talk about a way to attack that in a second as well. But the when the push comes to shove in the postseason, this to all of us is not a team that's going to translate perfectly. And there are so many dangerous teams in that West play-in lurking. You could almost make the case that there are scarier teams when it comes to like a 1-game play-in scenario that are going to be down around that 7, 8, 9 range than even kind of maybe in that 4 or 5. So if you get the Rockets just down to that 7, now every 7 seed has made the playoffs. But since we went to the play-in format, I honestly would be pretty skeptical if it was like the Rockets hosting like a fully healthy Mavericks and then an operational Warriors side, something like that. Or Fox and Wemby have come together and they're trying to take you out as, you're the 8 and you drop the first one and they're the 9 and you're battling for the 8 spot. There are many, many routes to this number just being way too long at this point in the season. They have played outstanding basketball. They really have. The defense is very legitimate, but the offense is starting to show some cracks. And with Van Vliet, sidelined at least through the All-Star break, if not a little bit longer, I just think that this is the time to get in on it. And it can be, I really, really love it if you have like some Houston Rockets like win total overs or division. I think kind of the de-escalator of this bet is just Memphis division is out there at minus 130 right now.
Oh, that's good.
I had to smash that. I mean, if you have the Rockets division ticket, this is like an absolute must. And I put in kind of large amount of money on this because I wanted to make that Rockets ticket I had pay out.
Can I let you bet on this?
yeah, I wanted to pay this. I wanted to pay that Rockets ticket out one way or the other. So now I'm on this Memphis minus 130. I think even if you don't have a Houston division ticket, the Memphis minus 130 division is great. And then basically the extreme escalators them to dismiss the playoffs because of this really stacked West. And Joe found the plus 2,000, but it was at least plus 3,000, and some books even have it down in the 1,600 range. So this is only moving in one direction right now. They might stabilize at some point, but I think, even as a Rockets lover, with this situation surrounding them in the West right now, and with their kind of a little bit of sketchiness going on, I sadly am going to be fading the Rockets with this long shot.
I mean, look, this is the thing though, is like, we back teams on this show. We don't root for teams. We root for plays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I've put in a bet on the Detroit Pistons under because I think it's adjusted way too far. I think it's gone way too far. And when I keep looking at all the numbers and I'm just like, guys, this is not an over 500 team. It's a fun story, but no, like this is like a 36 win team. This is not a 42 win team. That is no. So I went back the other way. So I don't think you need to kind of explain the Rocket side of it. Houston. So one of the things I think is interesting here. So Houston they've fallen to 12th in offense. They had risen as high as 9th, and it was like, hey, they got a top 10 offense and defense. Their strength of schedule is outrageously good. Like, it's outrageously good. Yeah. They've got the 4th toughest offensive strength of schedule and the 8th toughest defensive strength of schedule. So, like, they have very much earned this position that they've been in. My only problem with that is you look at that and you go, oh, that's going to balance out. And so they'll be easier. So they'll win more games because I'll stress these over and over. I'm not saying that when you're betting, you should ignore remaining strength of schedule for futures. I am telling you that you need to not over-rely on them. It's a fine data point, but a great example of this, if you just want like a recent one, and I have 100 I can talk to you about.
I'm curious if you're going to say the exact one that I'm thinking of right now.
It's the Phoenix Suns last season.
It's exactly what came to mind for me.
Phoenix was outside the play-in tournament. They were outside the playoffs. They were in the 7th or 8th spot. And they had the toughest remaining schedule, and everyone's like, they're dead. They're dead in the water. And the Suns won the playoff spot outright. Yeah. It's a combination of, for example, like right now, if you play the Bucks, oh man, what a tough game. You're playing the Bucks. There's no Giannis. Like the odds of you playing a team without guys is a lot higher. The odds of you playing guys on a back-to-back without guys is way higher than it was in November. So all of these type of things kind of contribute. Plus, it's just wonky. Like your team is tired and exhausted, especially like I'll tell you, I hate this week betting NBA. I hate it every single year because the guys are just like and I'll add another layer to it. You can see that the results are wonky. If you're in the locker room, oh God, is it apparent? Like you literally have guys talking about like, yeah, the wife wants to go here, but I want to go here. Like they're literally making vacation, and you can't blame them.
Yeah.
Do you get anything done at your day job the week before you're going to go on vacation? No. Those reports will wait. Those are problems for future you. And it's the same thing. We'll win games after I get back from Cancun. So that's my only thing that was like the schedule right now is just really wonky. So I like the Rockets play. The offense and I will say the offensive defensive shooting numbers are basically, hey, Houston's opponent should be shooting way better. The Rockets should also be shooting way better.
Yeah.
So it's largely kind of a function of, and there's some of this that you can't just dismiss of, hey, the Rockets defend really well and they close out and they actually do make you miss shots. Like they need credit for that.
I almost wonder if we will get to a point with like marketplaces being so sharp where like the zag on that, and I saw this in WNBA last year with the Minnesota Lynx. They were so well coached defensively and offensively, perfectly schemed, and all season they outperformed their numbers when it really was just this team is perfectly schemed. I think that, you know, it is not a surprise that Houston is out shooting or like undershooting and over defending. Like I think that, you know, it might not be to the extreme that we are seeing, but I do think there's like a point where like you can almost outsmart the smart data out there and be like,
yeah,
you know, there's like a little bit of actual.
I think that's a great point though, because I think it was not last year, but the year before, the Knicks had like one of the best 3-point shooting defenses, right? And we all knew, we were like, this makes no sense. This is insane. Like, why is this a thing? And a lot of it had to do with the coaching. And then when you get to the playoffs, when everybody's trying, it like evaporated, right?
Yeah.
But during the regular season, especially,
Yes.
those coaching edges I think matter way more. And then the zag should be in the postseason where you're like, hey, we've seen this. And then everybody goes, no, like they were outperforming because of coaching. And then you get to the playoffs and it goes, doesn't fucking matter anymore. Like, because everybody's trying, everybody's doing a little bit different things. They're not just going to their game plan, but during the regular season, for sure, it definitely matters.
Unless you're facing the Celtics, in which case you just let them completely.
Yeah, I mean, Tatum's shooting 60% from 3 against the Knicks. So, I mean, I'm just going to commit.
So one of the things that's interesting about this is the Pythagorean stuff, right? So if you kind of look at like, where should you be? Where are you and where should you be? Houston is currently underperforming. They're minus 1.6 compared to where they should be, right? One of the things, though, I think that's important to kind of look at, and I'm going to do this over the All-Star break, is look at the All-Star break, what do these numbers look like over the last 10 years of Pythagorean win differential and how much does it regress? Yeah. Because there's an assumption of regression in season that isn't necessarily always true. Because guess what? Somebody's going to end up with the best win differential in the NBA. Somebody's going to end up with that. Somebody's going to end up with the worst. Like, some team is going to win way more games than they should have, according to PVAG. Some teams going to win way less. Now, I will say, like, the Portland Trailblazers are a good example of this. They're plus 5.1 right now. That's way high. Like anything above 2.6, and I'm like, you're in a very rarefied air. But part of that's because, like, when Portland was bad, Portland was getting annihilated, and now Portland's not bad, so they're not getting annihilated. And so there's a lot of thing in here. Get back to Houston.
I'm going to read the shit out of that. I love that idea for an article, because that is something I've always thought about. Is like, it's like live betting futures, right? It's like mid game. What is sticky mid game? And sometimes like shooting stuff is sticky in a game, and there's like reasons why, and sometimes not.
Yeah. So plus 2,000, I think is a great bet for the Rockets to miss the playoffs, and I'm with you on that. And I like the Memphis play to win too. I'm mad because one of my thoughts was like, oh, Dallas can do it. Dallas can win. All of my Dallas futures are live again. And then fucking Anthony Davis, because they tethered their future. You know, it's what bothers me, just as a side thing. So I have a Substack, and on it, I literally wrote an article this weekend that was just all of the reasons this trade was dumb. And then I asked for reader feedback, and I have 7 more I have to add now. And we're at like 32 reasons now for why this fucking trade was stupid.
It is insane.
And what bothers me is, like, I wanted to be the guy that doubted Luka the most. Like,
You
I
and me
planted
both,
that
brother.
flag. I was like, no, he doesn't get back on defense because he's complaining to the official. No, isocentric basketball doesn't work. He's not a good enough creator. No, if you look at his impact numbers, like, he actually doesn't make the team any better. Like, I was ready to be that guy. I was ready to fight that battle until he got better. And he was getting better this year. I was already going to be like, hey, turn the corner. He did the thing. And then they traded him. And now I have to be like, you morons. And it's like, well, you said that he wasn't. I didn't say to trade him. Okay. Speaking of the Mavericks, last year, the Mavericks were the team that after the deadline, they made 2 significant trades and they went on a run and they wound up making the conference finals. 2 years ago, the Los Angeles Lakers made trades at the deadline. They made a run. They wound up in the conference finals. Neither one were top 3 seeds. Now, the Lakers were in the play-in tournament. The Mavericks were a 5 seed. You could argue like, well, they felt like a 4. Sure, but they were actually the 5. And it's very rare for those teams to win the title, but they can make the conference finals. And this presents us with an opportunity for us to look at a hedge opportunity. Because if we can just get them to the conference finals, we're in a really good spot with a long number. I will say this kind of falls into that same rule that I've always said, which is they need to have a shot in hell. You don't want to be in a conference final where you have a great ticket that you have to hedge at minus 500 or minus 10,000, unless you're Michael Fiddle. In which case, you're totally fine with it. And then you're just like...
Well, because you don't bet futures, so...
Exactly. Okay. So, from that perspective, like, when we look at the board, and we look at this entire, like, landscape, and you got the Lakers with Luka, but no Mark Williams after that trade was rescinded. By the way, if you missed that, Saturday night...
Crazy.
Mark Williams gets rescinded. Not because of the back, though. I don't know why they're doing this.
Wait, when's the last time this really, like, happened?
God, there was another one.
Because, like, honestly, I think this year, Mark Williams to the Lakers would have been awesome because of the lob threat, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a massive overpay for Mark Williams, I think. Yeah. Like, it was I think this almost is saving the Lakers from themselves.
Not really, because it's like their picks. They're
going to do it, whatever, but
their picks weren't going to be good anyway because they have Luka.
No, I agree, but they can use those picks in the off season.
Yeah,
they showed Luka that they tried, like, because they
don't
asked
worry,
Luka,
like, don't worry, fucking John Horst is just going to show up in LA and be like, "Hey, you want to get coffee?" And then be like, "Hey, what do you want, Giannis?"
Sure.
Can you give us Austin Reeves and a second rounder?
You want a lob threat? How about Giannis?
Yeah, ridiculous. So anyway, if we look at the board and we kind of look at the long-term stuff here, Joe, what is the team that you can look at and kind of go, I think there's a chance that this is that team? It's a known unknown. So some team's going to make, it's not definite, but I think we know some team is going to be surprisingly competitive in the playoff race. Even if they don't make a conference finals, they're just like tougher than expected.
Yeah.
What's that team?
I am, as this podcast knows, I am like the biggest Magic hater. I don't know how it's not the Magic. I know that Jalen Suggs is hurt, and I think Jalen Suggs is super important. At the same time, you're getting Paolo back. You have Franz back. You're getting this opportunity over the we have a couple more games in the All-Star break. They have to be the team, right? Like, if you're looking at the Eastern Conference, they have to be the team that's going to make the run. They're finally healthy, and we've seen everybody kind of have some success this year, but you need them to be together. And when you look at the bottom of the East, a lot of these teams are sellers. So, like, if you look, the Hawks are sellers, the Bulls are sellers, the Nets are sellers, the Raptors, Hornets, Wizards, whatever. Well, the Raptors, whatever. I'm calling them a seller. They got Brandon Ingram. They can still be a seller. Like, Orlando has to be the team. Like, the Heat are ahead of them, and they traded Jimmy Butler. I don't like the Magic. I bet they're under on the season total, and we did the win totals podcast, and I hate win totals, and I still bet the under on them, and I feel great about it now. I think they have to be the team that we say, this is the squad that can actually overperform relative to expectation based on the early part of the season, because the team is healthy. You have to think, if you like this team to start the season, you almost have to like them now.
My last, I have a thing coming out tomorrow on Fansided that talks about the Magic, and it talks about how frustrated I am. My last vestige of hope for them is guys go on vacation starting whenever, like,
Yeah.
their last game's Wednesday. They'll leave like Thursday morning with families. Some of them will leave on Thursday night on private jets because they're all millionaires. They'll come back into town usually Monday-ish, sometimes earlier, but usually Monday. And then Tuesday and Wednesday are the first like real practices. Now, some teams will come in and be like, Monday we're going to work. We underperformed. We got to figure some shit out. We're going to work on Monday.
Yeah.
It's tougher if you have an all-star. You pretty much have to be like, take the day.
Yeah.
It's fine.
They don't. So
right, they don't. As of now, we'll see if Franz is injured.
Yeah, true.
But the hope is that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they get work. They just get back in the lab, and they get back to work, and they get back in the gym, and they figure this stuff out, and they actually iron out all these issues. I don't know how ironing stuff out is going to make them be able to put the ball in the bucket because they just cannot do it. My favorite stat currently is that Mo Wagner remains their highest 3-point shooter on the season.
Yeah, no, their offense is booty. It's
Like,
absolute buns.
Like, I mean, it is. And not just like
bad.
booty. Not just booty, though. Like, it's stanky booty.
They're 29th in adjusted offense.
It is horrendous. They're dead last in 3-point percentage.
They're awful. Like, they can't
3%.
score.
Yeah, they cannot. And so that's kind of the question here is like, can they get it? I really wish they just gotten somebody offensive. Just anybody. Go get yourself a Jordan Clarkson.
But that was your biggest concern with them too, going into the break, because you even said, knowing them, like historically, the ownership will not make moves at the deadline. They just don't do it.
Yeah.
And now we're here again. I mean, I get that it's different because they're getting these guys back, but it's brutal. Like they're 20. They can't be worse, can they?
You can always be worse. Jim, what are your thoughts on the Magic? And then tell me if you've got a team.
Yeah, it's funny because I am the standard high person on the Magic at Action. I feel like I'm a Paolo defender in general and was on the Magic, I was on Magic Division, I was on Magic win total over. I can't quite get there right now, and I think it is because, and I don't like to overrate one player, but again, when we think about things, I always want to, it's like in comparison to the market. I think, again, this is another place we talked about, like, the smart thing is to, look at regression and which team is, above their price tag or which team is, bad shooting luck, due for good shooting luck, all that. I think we've almost zagged to the point where one player is like at times underrated. I do think that Suggs is that type of player. He's like the Jalen Johnson All-Star. Like Suggs is so central to them. I have it, in the cap that's upcoming for a best bet, but with Suggs in the lineup this year, they're 20-15. With him out of the lineup, they're 6-13. And that big of a difference is clearly partially noise. But like, there's a lot of that Suggs when Suggs was in, and Frollo, we can call
Frollo is awesome.
Franz and Frollo, their celebrity name, were both out. And now, obviously, part of this is they worked themselves to the bone during that stretch, and they're now burned out because of it. They kind of floated themselves without their two main stars, really burned themselves down to kind of the wick there, and now it looks like they're kind of outgassed. So I don't hate a division bet on them. Like I think that they will be around that kind of 43 win pace. But I kind of zoomed out and looked more of like who can make a run. Like who do I think can be in the conference finals? And hop back in the time machine with me here, all the way back to May of 2024. Eggs cost $4. We were able to. It was a different world, right? But
Simpler times.
There's two teams that were literally in the conference finals last year, Minnesota and Indiana, and both have quietly been pretty good this season. They both started pretty slow. They both started with some question marks. We'll start with the Minnesota side of it first. Anthony Edwards, to start the season, he was making all this noise with his scoring and his 3-point shooting. But if you go and look at his page, his actual impact numbers have improved month after month after month. He's playing some of his best basketball right now. His on-off is up to like double digits in the past month or so. And they've been dealing with injuries even. Randall is out. I think if you're a hater, you could say that kind of freed up some space for him. But I was trying to make that case. But they actually started playing pretty well with him in the lineup as well. But DiVincenzo is going to be coming back as well. This is a team that, again, was in the conference finals last year. Now, this is a better Western Conference, and we've talked about matchups, but they are a team that can give other opponents matchup issues. And I'll say in defense of Randall, since I gave him a little bit of a drive-by there, him being on the team does open up some flexibility in that front court. They can go, it might be dangerous, but you can go Nas and Julius and like live. Like your defense isn't going to be outstanding, but you can match up theoretically with teams. If Gobert's just getting picked on, you're like, man, we can't go super small ball, but we need Rudy off the court for a little bit. There's ways to do it. Right now, they are plus 6,000 to win it all. This is a team that looked pretty solid at times last season. I'm intrigued. And then if we flip it to the indie side of it, it's a very similar story. They quietly are up to 4th in the East. They're 19-7 since their slow start. They're top 7 in defense and offense over that stretch since their bad start to the season. Halliburton is quietly 48, 40, 85 over that stretch. You can get them 40-1 just to come out of the East. These are two teams that were right on the precipice last season. Now, I think both conferences are tougher. We've talked about how matchups it's going to be matchup dependent. But to me, these are two teams that are actually can give people some matchup issues. And I think that they're both being slept on, but neither team did anything at the trade deadline. So they're like the teams that, while all the noise went to the Lakers and the, whoever else made big moves, those teams, they saw their odds shrink notably. These two teams are the teams that, slowly got pushed down the ladder a little bit while playing some of their best basketball.
Halliburton, though, like, I don't know, man. Like, I love Halliburton. I have too many Halliburton rookie cards, right? I hope he's great. He doesn't look the same. Like, he just doesn't look like when you watch a Pacers game, he doesn't look as good.
I want to make a comment on Hallie. Hallie doesn't look the same, except when he does, and then he ruins your world.
Yeah.
Like, there are these games where there's stretches where it's just like Halliburton 3, Halliburton 3, Halliburton dime, Halliburton 3. Like, he just kills you.
But it's like once every 6 games.
I know.
Is the problem.
I know.
So it's like,
but like, it's not though. That's the thing. Like, his numbers are really good. I think he has a little bit of the Angel Reese disease right now, where
he misses layups.
Glop onto a narrative. Thank you, Joe, for filling. You did it. You did it perfectly. People lock onto a narrative, and for Halliburton, he has these really shitty games, and like once in every 12 games, he'll just go for 0 points, and that goes viral. And people are like, man, Halliburton kind of sucks.
No, but for him, he hasn't had double-digit assists in like 10 games. And that's what he was doing like with regularity last year. That's what I'm saying. Like the assists aren't there. So like, and the scoring is like, it's hit or miss. Like, he's not like a 30-point scorer. He's like in high teens, low 20s. But last season he was like consistently 11, 12.
I don't mean to be this guy, but I do kind of think of things this way, which is like, there is an argument to be made that his best basketball this season is in front of him.
Sure.
And I think that matters. Like, it's not just hopium. I think it's genuinely like, guys will have bad stretches and then turn it around. There was a season where Chris Middleton couldn't shoot. He just couldn't shoot. Like, mid just couldn't shoot.
Yeah.
And this is like in his prime. Like, this is like back in the day. It was baffling. It was like Chris just couldn't hit a fucking jumper to save his life. And he was getting asked about it every day. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I just got to keep working. Like, Chris Middleton, like, consistent scorer in the NBA, shooting guard, could not hit. And then he just, like, by the end of the season, it just changed. He was like back to normal. And his stats were down for the season, but it was like, it just changed.
Yeah.
And I'm not making the argument that Hallie's hasn't been like that, because it's like, it definitely just, you're right that he doesn't look the same. You're right. I just do kind of wonder,
literally looks
the Pacers have this energy of, if you get them in the tournament, it's just like,
oh, I don't want to face them. Yeah.
Like, we're just going to fuck stuff up. We're just going to fuck everything up.
Yeah.
So they are 4 back of the Knicks in the loss column. That's a lot. It's truthfully a lot. And Jim, you got something on that?
Well, I was just going to say, but again, we talk about brackets shaping up. It looks like Cleveland is going to be the 1 seed. I don't hate sitting in that 4-5.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think
if it's Pacers Bucks again and Giannis is back, everybody. So that's kind of the argument here. Is like, I would actually be like, yeah, but you could just wait, because if it's Pacers Bucks, everybody's gonna bet Giannis. Like, oh, they're gonna fuck them up after they beat him last year without him. And like, I'm gonna be the lone person that's gonna be like, it wasn't a good matchup to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Like if they could pause the bracket right now, it'd be amazing. You got the Knicks against the Pistons and the Celtics against the Heat. So like, sign me up for that.
And here's the other question, Jim. I think on this is, let's say that they beat the Bucks and the Cavaliers shit the bed and the Pacers knock them out, which like that'd be a very NBA thing. Like, oh, this amazing feel good story in Cleveland, topped by an even better feel-good story in the Indiana Pacers, and then they have to face Boston.
But aren't we truthers that series was closer than it looked?
Yes, but but my question though is like, what's the price?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, it is a point where like then it's Celtics. Yeah, you're gonna bet Celtics in the series minus 1,000. Like that's.
I think that even if like let's say it's 4-5, Pacers with 4, Bucks with 5. Indiana's going to be a dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you could just roll over Indiana every series and get a better number, I think. Like and be okay with it. And like honestly, do we think that Indiana moves up, or are they more likely to move down in the standings from this point on?
It's scarier to move up.
you think they're more likely to move up when the Knicks are 4 games up in the loss and then Boston's 6 games up?
I mean, the Knicks might be fraudulent, so
they're regular season champions, though. Like, that's what they do. That's what they do.
Like, kind of locked into this 4-5. Like I don't really see like.
Yeah, I think
that's why I'm saying. I think.
Yeah, I mean that I think is the thing here is like, and that's good. You're right, Joe. Like it's good because like we don't want it if they end up in the 3. Like we don't want a conference finals ticket on Indiana if they got to go through Boston.
No. Like the Knicks would be better off dropping to the 4.
They would,
and then playing Cleveland.
Although getting the Bucks, yeah.
And we can just bet DeAndre Hunter props every game. So like, it's not the, but that's not the point.
So like, I think the thing here is, Jim, I think you have the team right. I'm just not sure if the ticket.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to bet today. It's 2 teams that with numbers that jumped out to me as these 2 teams were literally in the conference finals last year, and I am pretty intrigued with the basketball they're playing. I actually am mostly with you in that I don't think you need to force it. Even though we are the future Jays here, we've kind of been saying the whole season, let's see the bracket. You know, grab numbers when they scream to you like Rockets to miss the playoffs. But in terms of like playoff stuff, let's see some bracket.
I'm trying to think of the right comp, right? Are the Pacers closer to that Hawks team that made the conference finals last year? Or are they closer to like, I guess like a Boston that's been in the conference finals and finally cracks through?
Well, I just think that the modern NBA, that Hawks team would have been a legitimate finals contender.
I think they're better than the Hawks team. I think they're better than the Hawks team.
Like I'm just trying to like put them on a scale. You know what I mean?
I think it's tough because I do think that there's this kind of I think the bigger difference actually is that it was harder for the Hawks to make consistent runs because everybody was a little bit tougher.
Yeah, in the East,
everywhere. Like I was telling
you,
you, like I think that these playoffs could be wild because I don't trust anybody.
This era was made for Brandon the Hater because every team kind of sucks.
Every team kind of sucks. Like
for Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma
City. I think Oklahoma City is the only team that doesn't suck.
Yeah. So I'll go a little bit more reasonable side, which is like, no, like they're really good. They're just not as good as Brandon wants them to be.
Yeah.
Like they're all like really good, but we want teams to be like they're so well rounded and they're so awesome in so many areas. And it's like, no, like if you leave Lou Dort and Casey Wallace and Isaiah Joe and Alex Caruso open, we don't know if they're gonna hit shots.
I think that's why we've been so reluctant to have a titles feature pod or episode of this pod, because we just keep saying bracket. Mm-hmm. Because that's the thing that matters the most.
But like we're also, we're getting into like the last 30 games here. This is gonna start firming up over the next month.
Yeah.
And we're gonna want to start getting some early positions on some stuff.
Yes, 100%. Once we start knowing.
4-5 matchup, it already looks like we can see this 4-5 matchup coming together. Like the vision is here for sure.
Yeah.
The Wolves. This is a narrative thing. This is the kind of stuff that Brandon hates. But this is like a thing that matters to me as somebody that covers the league, that like goes to the locker room. I don't know if that team believes in itself. I think that team is. I think Anthony Edwards was very much frustrated by the Rudy Gobert trade because they made a run. the first time with versus Memphis, and we're like, why are we fucking this up and adding in Rudy Gobert? And then they disappointed, but then it started to work, and he was like, oh, this could actually work. And then last year felt awesome, and then they changed it again. And then on top of it is just like, I don't think anybody, I do not think that team, part of the biggest thing that's been frustrating for me to watch is Ant takes out his frustration on the team on Rudy Gobert, like all the time. Like he's just like, oh, like Julius Randle will fuck up something and Ant's yelling at Rudy about it. And I'm like, that's not his fault. There's no way that's his fault. And so those kind of things are why, but I don't think you're, I've every weekend on every Sunday I tweet out, hey, here are the teams that are top 10 in offense and defense. And I've mentioned this team several times. The Wolves are 14th in offense, 5th in defense, and they actually slid a little bit offensively. They've been dancing around 11, 12. Like if this team, like there's a very good chance this team winds up with like the 5th best defense in the league and the 9th best offense. And if that's the case, they're good enough. They're just good enough to be undervalued. I do want to note, by the way, and maybe we'll talk about this next week. DraftKings has this market up for play-in performance. Any play-in tournament to reach the second round is minus 185. Any play-in tournament team to reach the conference finals is plus 175. Any play-in team to reach the finals is plus 500. And any team to win the NBA finals, which would be the longest anyone's ever won, except for I think the Rockets, plus 1,000. So maybe we'll talk about that next week. Let's do some best bets. This has been great. Let's do some best bets. First, I want to let you know, if you're listening to the show and you probably like betting as much as I do, when it comes to betting, there's two things I'm always trying to do. Make it easier and make it more profitable. And that's why we partnered with Edge Boost, a financial platform that pays you a cashback to wager. Edge Boost is an online bank account that pays you for every deposit. No credit card gimmick. None of that nonsense. With the Edge Boost Visa debit card, you get up to 0.5% cash back on all your sportsbook, daily fantasy site, and casino transactions. That's free money back in your pocket just for doing what you're already doing. It's a no-brainer. I opened my Edge Boost account. I did it. I was given the instructions, went over, clicked it, and was expecting it to be this whole process and have to like go through like a bunch of stuff and make it really uncomfortable. It was super easy. It was like literally 3 minutes and I was done. And it was all set up and it was great. And I deposited that into an account and then won a big bet and took it out. And it's been absolutely seamless with everything in terms of the availability and how easy it is to do it. If you ever had a casino transaction flagged by your bank because they thought it was suspicious or been given the runaround when trying to fund a sportsbook account online, the Edge Boost debit card is the perfect tool. It starts with a $250,000 daily limit and will never be declined for gambling activity. It's why you're going to be happy if you open an account. Make your betting life easier and stop leaving money on the table. Visit edgeboost.bet to learn more. That's edgeboost.bet and use the promo code BUCKETS to start at tier 2 for faster bank deposits and more cash back. All right, let's do some best bets for the Monday slate. We'll go around the horn. Joe Dallaire, what's your best bet for Monday in the association?
I like Bobby Portis over 18.5 points plus assists against the Golden State Warriors.
Not Joe Dallaire. Jim Turvey, what's your best bet?
Going back to the island. We ejected from the island. We're going back. Hawks plus 5.5. And then for my player prop, I'm going Chris Paul. We don't have the official line yet, but I'm going to go under 7.5 assists. Obviously, if it's higher, I like that as well.
Okay. I am going to go... I'm going to go the over in Wolves Cavs. Over 228. I'm going to go the over there. God help me. All right. I'll do mine real quick. I've make this 232, and that seems high. Cavaliers, they put up points pretty much no matter what. Wolves, actually, their offense gets better versus elite offenses, and their defense gets a little bit worse. So they can actually play with these teams. The Wolves are a little bit underrated offensively. Wolves are 50% to the over. It's 50-50 for them this season on the road, over-under. But the over in Cavs home games is 61%. So I'm willing to go ahead and take the over here at 228. Joe Dallaire, talk to me about Bobby Portis.
Yeah, so I mean, we just heard that Giannis is going to be out for, through the All-Star break. They're going to have to give him a replacement. And the biggest thing is when he's out, Bobby Portis usually sees a pretty significant uptick in not only his minutes, his usage, whatever. I know that today Sunday, he actually still came off the bench. Kyle Kuzma started. Bobby Portis came off the bench. So a little bit of a different situation. At the same time, he still had 23 PA. The minutes are still there. He played 30 minutes, so I'm not super concerned about that. And when he's played without Giannis this season, he's averaging 24.9 PA over in 7 of 9 games without him. And one of the misses at 18. The biggest thing is I like the assists have actually been popping a little bit more than I thought. He's averaging 5 potential assists per game, or like a touch more, right? And he's over in the assist line in 7 straight games. He's over his assist line of 2.5 in 7 straight games. I don't love grabbing an assist line with Bobby Portis at 2.5. I think that I just like using it as a booster on the combo prop. I think that he can go over just on points, but I also think it helps his floor on the combo prop of 18.5. So I'm going to add it and get an 18.5 points plus assists on Bobby Portis here against the Golden State Warriors, who are definitely a little bit undersized when you look at what their current roster composition is.
I'm trying to think this through. I gotta get a sense for what the Warriors are going to look like, but the Quentin Post thing is weird.
It's weird, bizarre.
And I continue to be like, and now it's like, okay, we've got this figured out because it's Steph and Draymond and Jimmy Butler and then like whoever. But I'm also just like, how do you still don't know who's in your rotation?
They make no sense. Because Jimmy has to score in the paint. That's the the spacing. I think Jimmy is an upgrade over what they had on the roster, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be good.
It makes a lot of sense to me in terms of, I think it's going to help because like Steph was talking about this, he's such a good cutter. And the biggest thing with him is that he's a guy that can set a screen, slip, grab the ball, and then pass.
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing is Jimmy is really good at attracting defenders and punishing them for it.
Yes.
Whether by drawing fouls or passing. So like, I think that can work. I think it'll be okay, but like, I'm still just like, Quentin Post?
I think Buddy Hield has to be amazing though for this to work.
Yeah,
he has to be good.
That's
Otherwise, the rest of the team cannot shoot outside of the paint.
Yeah,
almost like Jimmy can barely make a jumper.
Steph this season.
yeah, like Steph can barely make a jumper. So it's like it's brutal.
I do want to warn you that there is like I don't know, 35% chance that Bobby Portis and Draymond Green get into a fight tomorrow night.
That's valid, honestly. That's probably why this is at 18.5. But hopefully we just cash in the first quarter.
Yeah, very very serious. Like Bobby's tired on the second night of a back-to-back. He's gonna have to do all this stuff, and Draymond's gonna be chirping. Jimmy's gonna ramp him up. Yeah, that's gonna be the worst part. Is everybody's like Jimmy and Draymond are gonna fight. I'm like, no, they're just gonna ramp each other up. Just
fair point.
But
fair point.
Regardless, if he doesn't get ejected, I like 18.5 Bobby Portis PA.
Yeah.
For Joe Delera. Jim Turvey, talk to me about Chris Paul under 7.5 assists.
Yeah, so this is one of those things where this is kind of a fun time to get back into props, right? Because we've got either players who are making their debuts, and we kind of think about where usage is going to go and where minutes are going to go, or we get the first few games of this, and this is a case of having seen the first few games where Chris Paul is still averaging 7 assists since in the 3 games since De'Aaron Fox came down. However, those 7 assists that he is averaging a game have come on 6.7 potential assists a game. So he's pulling off the rare more assists than a potential assist voodoo magic that only Chris Paul can do. I think it's because the potential assist tracking isn't 100% perfect. So you don't want to be overly reliant on them. But it is very telling. And we've seen how De'Aaron Fox has so naturally fit into being the playmaker on this team. Chris Paul's usage is down. We've got a double-digit spread here against Washington. The fear is that it's a Washington team that is truly terrible and does give up a ton of assists, and that Chris Paul could get this in 24 minutes, and it doesn't even matter. But with him moving off the ball a little bit with Fox, I do think these blowouts, if we get a blowout here, the Spurs are going to be looking at Chris Paul and saying, we don't care about you for the regular. This is the perfect game to put you in cotton balls and save you for the postseason. So the prop has not popped up yet. It was 7.5 last game against the Magic. So I have to imagine, worst case scenario, we'll get 7.5 here. But the potentials just aren't there for Paul. So it's kind of one of these things that's hiding in plain sight. And hopefully we can get one more day of a solid under on a Chris Paul assist number here.
By the way, just as an update, since we're doing this every week now, we have a new leader in the clubhouse for rookie points per game. Stephon Castle has taken over the lead at 12.7.
He's the favorite now, too. Consensus favorite for the award. I'm seeing plus 200. I saw a plus 160.
Rookie of the year.
Alex Sarr is the second with 11.5.
He's dead.
6 points.
He might be done.
I think he's dead.
Why?
I feel like they might just wrap him up for the season.
I just don't think he's that good either. Like,
Zachary
I don't think he can beat Castle. And Castle's 0.1 ahead of him.
Zachary Ricochet is third, shooting. What's sad is Ricochet is shooting 31%, and he's better than either of the two previous guys I mentioned.
Amazing.
From 3.
Yeah.
That Connect 200. Can we pour a 40 for that? I know you somehow zagged and liked it less in Charlotte, but that thing looked so good. I liked it more.
Now I feel like now it's so fucked. Because it just what are they gonna play him?
Is he gonna play?
Yeah, it's brutal.
That conversation has to be so awkward.
Yeah.
Hey, Dalton, welcome back.
We traded you.
LeBron didn't have any fucking faith in you at all.
Which is funny because it felt like they liked him.
I know.
Listen, we can spin this narrative two ways though. He could go into fuck you mode. He could be like, listen, you guys wanted me out the door. I'm gonna prove myself.
I am proud of the way this podcast has handled Rookie of the Year this year. We haven't bet the favorite.
Ever.
That's certainly true.
Ever. Whenever any player built a lead, we went down the board and found somebody. We have CLV sandwiches to eat for days.
We're actually close to the point where we have the people that could get voted on, and we need to just hammer who we think is going to win. We're getting very close to that. We're getting very close to that.
But I don't know the answer.
It's still unclear.
It should still be Jalen Wells, and nobody knows he exists.
I've seen his minutes are dropping the last couple games, which is
it's not great.
They traded Marcus Smart. Why are they dropping?
It makes no sense.
I don't know.
Anyway, Jim did call that they might play him less down the stretch of the season. I guess they trust in Scottie Pippen Jr. more. I like Scottie. He's really good. Like he's genuinely really good.
Many
but
dudes,
and
Gigi Jackson's back. Vince Williams is back. Like it's brutal for him out there.
Okay, moving on. All right, Jim. Hawks plus 5.5.
I'm crawling back towards the island very slowly. I still don't want the futures, but this is honestly
got like a little snorkel. He's in the water.
I've got like the straw, the handmade one.
Trying to sneak onto the back of the island again.
Okay, I legit. This is where you can tell me I truly have lost I'm lost in the sauce here, but I kind of think that from a day-to-day basis, they might, like ceiling wise, certainly not. I think they kind of got a little bit better at the deadline. They weren't playing Bogdan. They get in Terrence Mann, who I'm pretty intrigued by. DeAndre Hunter, the advanced stats basically say he's like a net whatever. I think that's underselling him a little bit. But between Niang and LeVert, they got two guys who can fill out this roster. They have some decent depth here. I'm pretty intrigued by them. They their first game they debuted these guys, they got the Wizards. So, we can't really count on that very much. But I will say that I thought it looked decent. They Trey was like a plus 40 in his minutes there. And the other side of this is Orlando. Talked about it is funny that I'm semi fleeing Orlando Island as soon as Joe pulls up and he's like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm here to hang out. And I'm like, I got some questions. But the whole Suggs part of it is like, I do think that this guy is one of those people that impacts a team more than would make sense to a spread, like a past a logical amount. And the numbers just speak with him on and off the court this season. And for whatever reason, Fraulo, our new celebrity there, our new celebrity couple leading Orlando, even the offense hasn't looked good with the two of them. Paolo in particular has really struggled, and as this Hawks defense could totally be the get right spot. But at grabbing 5.5 points on a Hawks team that I think from a day-to-day basis, if they stay healthy, I'm going to be vaguely intrigued by them. So I'm going to grab the points here with the Hawks against Orlando on Monday.
I'm looking something up.
There's got to be a name for the Matt silence where I'm like, he either hates this or loves it. And so it was Hawks, I knew it was going to be hate, but I was like, the Matt silence is such beautiful.
It's the I need more time.
Yeah.
I have a very damning stat coming in 2.5 seconds.
No, you're okay. You're okay. So this is kind of what I've talked about because I wanted to mention this. Is this the first game back from the road trip for the Magic, or were they home this weekend?
Now we all have to go into.
No, I got it.
Everybody's typing.
I got it. They were home for the Spurs game.
Yeah, so no excuses.
And they didn't cover, which actually tracks. So that angle doesn't matter.
The fake home game angle.
Look, I can see what you're saying with Niang and Terrence Mann. Like Terrence Mann is I haven't really thought about that because so much shit happened at the deadline. Like Terrence Mann is like a positive, strong. He's a solid role player.
And next to Trey, I really like the fit of him next to Trey.
Yeah, I don't know if I really like the fit of him.
Yeah, that's maybe a little bit of Hawks bias.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the part of the thing I think that has to kind of be calculated here is my belief is just simply that the reason that they had success in this season was because Jalen Johnson was good, and that without Jalen Johnson, they are not good. Because without Jalen Johnson this season, they are 7-10 straight up, but they are 10-7 against the spread. So maybe I don't hate this because 4.5 for the Magic. The thing is like the problem, but yeah, I'm gonna say this: just go the full way and play the alt line here.
It is fair, yeah.
Like
because
look, how do you win this? How do you win this bet? You win this bet if the Magic offense is so bad that the Hawks are able to get past them, because even the Magic can't even score on the Hawks. That's how bad the offense is.
But there is a tiny part of the cap that's the Orlando offense is so bad. How are they going to like baking a tight game because Orlando's offense can't pull away from anyone? You know what I mean?
I'm looking at Magic this season. 16-9 against the spread at home. They're still really good at home. 15-10 ATS. And that's after that stretch where everybody was out in early January. I can't blame you. It's not a bad number. I have it 4.9. So I don't mind. If it's 5.5 especially, I like the angle. I can't blame you for it. I still bet the under on the Hawks team total this weekend, by the way.
Just going back to the well.
Respect.
Not good. Okay, that's gonna do it. Joe Delera likes 18.5. Bobby Portis over points and assists. Jim Turvey likes Chris Paul under 7.5 assists. Hawks plus 5.5. And I am taking the over in Cavaliers and Timberwolves at 228. You can find all these picks in the pick slip section in the episode description. So on YouTube or on podcast, we have quick slips. You click on those, it's going to take you and you just get to bet it for right from there. So if you want to bet the stuff that Joe said, so you don't wait, I would say you should just do that. Like, just open it up right now and tail it. Don't be like, oh, I'll get it later. Like, don't do that unless you're driving, in which case, wait till you stop and then do it. But other than that, just use a quick slip and tail these guys because they're so good at what they do. You can catch Jim Turvey over Roto Grinders, Joe Delera on the Cash That podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more buckets for you throughout the week. On Friday, we will do our annual All-Star breakdown, giving you stuff on three-point contest, dunk contest, whatever the fuck this new arrangement is for the All-Star game and All-Star MVP. We'll do all that for you. We'll give you how to bet All-Star weekend on Friday. My thanks to David Payne, our producer, Bridie Rubino, and Gifford Gould, who I hope is finally happy the Chiefs lost, you son of a bitch. And the crew over at our video crew. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.